different things in life, and also different ways to look at things, and sometimes even to radically see some things differently. And one of the most important things, though, is that I realized it's extremely difficult, if not improbable or impossible, that an awakened person is together with a non-awakened person in a relationship. And Mooji said, yeah, he has seen it, and they can be very beautiful relationships, but I don't really believe that. I mean, Mooji doesn't really have deep insight into that relationship, so he doesn't know. Only the people in the relationship really know. And I noticed that when I was together with a non-awakened or unawakened person, that or not a fully awakened person, because there are beings that can be silent for a while and can be also without thought, but that doesn't mean the full realization is there that they're not the thoughts. So they still entertain a lot of thoughts. And as long as you entertain the thoughts, then you cannot drop things. And usually some things will surface that one or the other cannot let go. And that becomes such a strong point, conflict in the relationship, that that's usually then the end of the relationship a lot of times. And I think that that makes it extremely hard for the awakened being to find or to be there kind of like a perfect match in a relationship. And Muji says that the more you let go, the more you marinate in the self, the more likely you find the partner that is also as awakened. It's kind of like the universe brings you to them that way, in ways that you couldn't pre-plan or imagine, by means you couldn't imagine. Basically, it's all synchronicity. And I truly believe that in some form or fashion. What what I have to say, though, is that I met my last ex-girlfriend. She was not fully awakened, but she could stay silent and she could stay just in beingness. But then she would also tremendously also entertain her thoughts. So she thought even that thoughts need to be kind of like uh, improved, crystallized, in order for them to become pure thoughts instead of just letting the thoughts go. And that, to me, as an awakened being, is very weird and very, very strange. And actually, that became a massive conflict within the relationship, because because she was kind of, yeah, putting too much attention on what she was thinking, basically. And so I don't see myself together with a woman that is very strongly identified with her thoughts or entertains them too much. And that makes it very unlikely to find someone in general, because most people are not awakened. And if there is some kind of awakening, it's usually just the ability to stay a little bit as beingness, but then jumping back into thoughts fully again and over identifying with them again fully. So, and I could give you tons of examples where this is a problem. Um, for example, I remember one of my ex-girlfriends, who was not awakened, or was awakened in the sense she could stay in beingness for a while, or as beingness, more correctly. But then she would fall back into her, normal thought routines, and be really stuck with them. And I remember a time when she came into my room and she was like, I don't want to end up like a beggar on the street. That's why I cannot continue with Eckhart Tolle, basically, or something like that, or with you in the relationship. Because she felt that if we go down this path of letting go, that we would become, some kind of beggars on the street, which incidentally never happened. Um, and actually life went much better than I thought after awakening. Actually, everything worked better after awakening, to be honest. I don't know anything that didn't go better after awakening. Because for example, you have infinite patience, you don't push on things when things don't. I give you an example. I once had a PayPal account, a business PayPal account, long time ago, and PayPal needed some documents for me to send them, like incorporation documents and stuff like that. And the account was said that in 6 months they would restrict my account if I don't furnish the documents. So I was sending them and sending them and sending them and sending them, and nothing ever happened. It was always stuck in that mode, no matter where I send, you know. And then after a few months, it was like 2 months into the final date, I let it go. I said, okay, because that was already after awakening, I decided to completely let it go as if the problem didn't exist. So I stopped identifying with it, stopped creating a story around it, just being in awareness as I am. So then forward to a few days before the deadline, like a week before the deadline, even shorter, was like 3 days before the deadline. By coincidence, I meet on Facebook a PayPal support specialist, and he, very young guy, he solved the problem within 1 day of the deadline actually appearing. So and I had many of these kind of synchronicities by letting go, by not clinging to something. And that actually reminds me of the story of the monkey who's trying to pick something from inside the coconut, like a banana or something, but because he's trying to pull so hard, he cannot pull it out. So he needs to loosen his grip in order to pull out what's in the coconut. And that's the analogy basically for letting go, and this works all the time for some reason. And usually comes in different ways than you would expect. And that's also what Bashar says, by the way. And it's also that he says abundance comes in many forms. It doesn't come just in one form. It comes in many forms. And if that's, by the way, if these topics interest you, because I find them fascinating, then subscribe to this channel if you're not yet subscribed. And what you talking about? I just came. I'm talking about letting go. I'm talking about conscious relationships, where one person is awakened, the other one isn't, like spiritually awakened, really awakened. And that I feel that it's impossible for a relationship to work if one is fully awakened and the other one is not. And but it's very rare that you have a relationship where both are awakened. It's extremely improbable. And what I notice also, you can't make, because it's maybe not in their soul plan, you can't make your partner awaken. It doesn't work like that. You can tell them about, non-duality, if it feels right, but it doesn't mean they will awaken. And that you should never start a relationship with the idea that as you are awakened, the other person will awaken as well. There's no guarantee for it, and it could never happen. And the problem is that usually the non-awakened person or being will have something that they cannot let go of, a certain vasana, certain karma, a certain mind conditioning that will become a major conflict in the relationship. And that with two awakened beings usually doesn't happen because they can, hi Ananka, because they can overcome whatever it is. But here's something interesting. The best relationships are the ones where two beings have the same soul plan or very similar, in which they support each other's soul plan. That could be, for example, I don't know, if I say my soul plan is to open a retreat center, I will find a woman that also opens a retreat center. Then that works perfectly together. For example, as an example, as uh, as same soul plan. Then you have the chakra connections, especially the sacral chakra, heart chakra, third eye. If those are connected, then you have great energy, which is usually astrologically given, by the way. Then you have great energy with each other, and then you have the awakening. But the awakening is kind of like the fully open crown chakra, in which the God, in which there's the realization that you are not the body, not the emotions, not the thoughts, not all of this stuff, not the words that you use, not the impulses. You are just beingness, infinite beingness. And and that would be the ideal partner. Yeah, it's definitely in the astrological charts, the chakra connection. And I've massaged over 1,000 women because I was a tantra masseur for women specifically. I did some sessions with men, but it wasn't tantra, it was more like general healing. And with women I did mostly tantra. And after 1,000 sessions I learned that there were maybe 3 or 4 women that I had a very, very, very strong chakra connection with. And it was so strong. Also, for example, third eye or sacral chakra. I remember 2 or 3 women, the sacral chakra connection was so strong that even if we did yoga next to each other on a frosty day next to a lake, I would get a boner and she would be really hot for me, although we were like, 2 meters apart. I'm from Europe, so 2 meters apart, and then we would cuddle in this freezing cold just because the sacral chakra attraction was so strong. And that's great to have if you have a partner where the chakra connections, the chakra kind of activation is so strong, and the sacral or the heart or a third eye or all of them or a combination of those, it's absolutely fantastic. And I have a lot of experience with that. And in my book, Gold Pill, I also, which is free to download, I also will describe. I also have a chapter which describes chakra breathing, where you connect with the other person, your chakras, which is fantastic in relationships, and and it overcomes a lot of struggle also that people have where they block each other's chakra because they're not fully trusting yet. So with the chakra breathing you can overcome that. And it goes like into the sacred sexuality, what people call sacred sexuality, and or tantra, and the western form of tantra. And the the awakening also doesn't even allow you or doesn't permit that you filter it through the conditioned mind, whatever happens. So you don't go automatically in this defensive mode, like, why did you do this, why did you do that? That doesn't exist with an awakened being. Whereas the non-awakened being has that a lot, like those filters, those reaction filters. And that makes a relationship very, very difficult. um the reason I often talk about toxic metaframing because it's a signal where when you meet someone the first time and then the toxic metaframe you can instantly recognize whether they're a toxic person right from the start. So you avoid, for example, codependency or narcissistic relationship. And if you recognize toxic metaframe you can immediately avoid that person. And but if there's a truly awakened being in front of you, they will not toxic metaframe. Doesn't exist because they're content within themselves. Toxic metaframing always happens if one person is not content within themselves. And that's also important because in the relationship, if one person is unhappy, the other person can reflect it to them and allow them to grow into their happiness and sexuality, and vice versa, and without getting offended or into defense mode. And that allows both people to grow without blocking each other and without blaming each other, especially. and that's going to be very difficult in non-awakened relationships. um I always think like the only true way to meet a truly awakened being is either you communicate it on something like YouTube, or you go to satsangs, because otherwise in the normal say society, as you move about, it's extremely unlikely that you meet any kind of awakened being. But it's also true that the more you marinate as beingness, the more you start to do things and emanate things which are more in alignment with your higher self, you could say, with your higher vibration, whatever you want to call it, and thereby you start to do the same things as another awakened being would do, that is fearless and all of these things, and then it's more likely that there is a match. The good thing is nowadays you have things like YouTube, so you can talk about it and you can connect with people that resonate in the same way, and that is absolutely fantastic, of course. uh Through YouTube I met basically my best friends, and it's fantastic. um my ex-girlfriend even I met through YouTube, so that was great. um Since everyone is a mirror, encountering a toxic person should be assigned to yourself to check your own emitted vibe. I disagree. This is something that I call this neo spirituality, this belief, and I would say differently. Um, in today's society, and let me explain it. In today's society, I recognized as a highly sensitive person with healing powers and highly feeling. I can feel chakra blockages and stuff. Today I was in Carrefour, which is like a supermarket here in Spain, French chain, and I recognized that a lot of people are not only in a bad mood in a sense, like they're not having a good time now after COVID, but when I talk to people and the more I'm in contact with people, the more I realize that a lot of people are toxic. They might not recognize it, they might not be conscious of it, but I would say 80 to 90% of people nowadays are toxic. They're super unconscious of it, but they are. And so, what I'm trying to say is that just the probability of meeting someone toxic, because most people are toxic, is very, very high. Life is more probabilities than it is same attracts same. It's not really that way. In a sense, like if I go into the water instead of being sitting on the beach, then the likelihood that I get wet is 100%. It's just life doesn't work the way neo spiritualists or neo esoterics believe. It's just probabilities mostly. So so if I meet now a woman, for example, a lot of women now have tattoos. A tremendous amount of women have tattoos. It shocks me because I'm not interested in tattoos at all. I don't like them. But a lot of women have tattoos, and a lot of women have a lot of tattoos. I mean, literally, like go on a dating app and flip through a couple of things, and you will see how many have tattoos. Or when you meet them, like go to a yoga retreat and see how many have tattoos. So, when I come together with a woman, what's the likelihood that she will have a tattoo? Extremely high. So, it's not about your own emitted vibe, it's more it has more to do about decision making. Do you accept, do you make a compromise with what is available to you in a kind of like statistical way, in the sense like if if say um if say you don't want a woman that has tattoo, but you accept a woman that has a tattoo, but you don't want it, then you've ended up in a relationship with someone who has a tattoo that you don't want. This is exactly the same thing, um, with toxic women. A lot of women are problematic nowadays. It's just a fact. I, as a single man who met a lot of women, massaged a lot of women, I just see it. I just feel it. And or problematic doesn't necessarily need to be toxic, because toxic assumes that they're conscious of it. Most people are unconscious of their behavior. So, and then you make the decision. Do you decide to stay with that person, or you don't decide? You just decide against it. So it's the decision that really frees you from problematic things. It's not really your own vibe that causes it. It's more the self-love and the trust that you will find something that more suits you, that is actually the resolution to that. Could that possibility be because there's a lot of revelation of what's not working? Is that a reason why everyone is walking around as an open wound? Let me read that again because I'm not sure I completely understand what you mean. Could that possibly be because there's a lot of revelation of what's not working? So you mean like red pills, I guess? Is that a reason why everyone is walking around as an open wound? I think it's different. I think that we're in a generation where we're just starting to learn to unravel all the trauma that our previous society and parents have caused, and we're just at the very beginning of this kind of like journey. And I think this is really the first generation, because without the internet we wouldn't have access to coaches, therapy sessions, therapy ideas, modalities. Instagram is full of these now. We wouldn't have, all these yoga teachers. We wouldn't have, these ther- therapists. We wouldn't have, I mean, you would individually, maybe someone would try to seek something, but now they can scroll through it at their own pace. They can do, Sadhguru inner energy, like getting sick when detoxing. Yeah, and it will take some time for these traumas to be released, and slowly for awakening to happen to more and more souls. It's just a slow process, and we're just at the beginning of it on a base, on like society. And look at how people reacted with COVID. I'm not vaccinated. I didn't buy the lie, and I knew what it was about, and I saved myself. But a lot of other people, they were kind of like medically raped, you could say, and now they have to deal with that. And I look at the people and I see they have low chi, low prana, low life force. uh, Even 2 3 4 years into this, 3 years now, they're still kind of like not over it. And they caused it themselves, because if everybody would be like, no, we're not taking it, then society would be different now. And now everybody feels like their joy has been sucked out of them. I feel it even here in Spain. And these are new traumas. It's like a world war, not as strong, but it's like new traumas are being created, and people are very unconscious of these things, and only few people are slowly awakening to this stuff. And so when I come together with a woman, she will, she sizes me up as well. She judges me internally, unknowingly maybe, on who I am, what I am, and the way I am. For example, I attract a lot of problematic women. I do attract a lot of problematic women, but it's not because I'm myself problematic. It's because they feel safe with me, because I accept everyone, right? And I help everyone, and I'm very open to being there, and I don't judge as much in the relationship itself. And but if she's highly problematic, then I of course want to exit the relationship. And so I wouldn't say that there's something in me that I attract them in per se, in that in the sense that I'm toxic myself. It's just that I need to make the decision for myself. What do I accept? What I don't accept? Appreciating your perspective and presence, feeling the warmth in it. Thank you Feeling the warmth in feeling the warmth in Canada. As a Canadian flag. Um, yeah. So I think it has more to do with. I met a woman on Mallorca. She healed herself from something, and she said literally, the healing is the first thing, or the most important thing is the decision. You're making a decision for self love and self care, and that must emanate into everything, into your relationship and everything. And if you decide for people that are toxic because you're unconscious and you don't realize they're toxic, it's not necessarily because you are toxic as well, you harbor this in you. It's because you're just not yet conscious of all these behaviors that people have that are, for example, narcissistic. So it's more about education. That's why I talk about toxic metaframing, because once you understand toxic metaframing, you can completely avoid, you immediately recognize the pattern, you can completely avoid these people. And if you know that 9 out of 10 people are toxic metaframers, or 8 out of 10, it makes it super easy to understand that when you talk to someone, the probability that they're like that is very high, and you can judge them, you can size them up by looking at, if they react this way. And if they do, then you just go your way. And a lot of people enter into relationship just because of probabilities and opportunity. So for example, I was 5 years single. I was single. I didn't have almost no intimate contact whatsoever in 5 years. Not because I wanted to, just I didn't meet girls, and it just didn't happen. And then my ex-girlfriend saw me through YouTube, and I liked her from the beginning, but I also have to confess that if I had 100 other women that would be interested in me, I would have maybe picked someone else. And or I wouldn't have picked anyone, or something would have happened, but I wouldn't have gone so fast into the relationship. So it is mostly probability and opportunity, and where are you fishing? If you're fishing in a pond which only has frogs, you're not gonna catch a fish, or vice versa. So thanking the pain for its service and then letting go. Yeah, I mean, spirituality, in a sense, spirituality is always about letting go. If you want to sum up spirituality in 2 words, it's letting go. It's literally that. Letting go so much that you don't even exist anymore. That is spirituality. And that is also full acceptance, naturally. I want to take some natural honey. Oh, I have berries here. I have a huge blueberry thing here. I love blueberries. I forgot to buy yogurt. Oh no! I wanted to have yogurt with blueberries and honey. I forgot the yogurt. I knew I forgot something today. So I wish you a very nice day, and we're gonna definitely talk more about awakened spiritual relationships. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. James Steele. 12th house in astrology is about letting go. Ah, okay.